Hey, hi, Vinnu.
Hi there.
Hi, apologies. I thought it was at 12:30, so I just saw your email.
Oh yeah, and I wasn't sure. I
Uh,
know that you had scheduled it on my calendar, and
uh,
then you sent me one. I was like, oh no, I'm not
uh,
sure where he's going to be.
yeah, no. So hi, Vinnu.
Good, good. Tell me, I am looking forward to meeting you here. Tell me what you've got
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, okay. So see, I've been associated with the events since last 16, 17 years. Okay, and
You started as a
basic.
young one.
Yeah, I started as a young one. I'm still a young one. Okay, so I started as a young one. But what I've seen and experienced, because see, I have seen both the sides, rather all the sides. Okay, I was an event sponsor, I was an event organizer, then I was an event producer itself. I did, a couple of events, B2B events on my own. Okay, so I had that experience. Okay, so that's why I thought let's explore this. See, because I'm very much fascinated. You can say that I have got my emotions connected to events. Okay, it was like to be very honest, I left my very stable job to get into events.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
I had a very stable job, but I thought, let me explore, if I can do something, unique and creative because I'm very passionate about this whole thing, meeting people, networking with them, and discussing ideas. And, so this is very fascinating for me. So I thought, let's explore the ideas. Let's see if it works or not. But it was altogether a good experience for me. So I thought, let's do something around the events with per se of the marketing, and that too, the overall concept of, you say, event marketing. And when you say event marketing, there is a place, and there is a very, you can say, a low hanging fruit called data, you know, right? So, I thought, there is no better person than you whom I can talk to. And when Dahlia, I had a discussion with Dahlia yesterday. I just had a podcast with her yesterday. Okay. So I thought let's, talk to you as well, and, get to know your insight here, because you have been working for us 30 years into this industry, right? It's been a long time. It's a really long time for you. So I thought, there is no other person who can, give me some valuable insights when it comes to data. See, because what has happened, when we say event data, okay, or there are a lot of things associated with, because some people may say, how do you see it from the pre-event perspective, or some people may say, post-event data is much more valuable for them, okay, and of late, after when things have become more virtual, things have become more hybrid. Suddenly that data thing has come into place, and then everyone is talking about, let's have, and now you have lot of event tech platforms who give you lot of data, right? So according to you, why this data thing has suddenly come up so aggressively with event organizers? I will not say event marketers, but rather event organizers.
Well, it's just, one thing is the technology is providing it now, right? The technology has always been there. It
Right.
has become more innovative. It has become more it's always collected the data, but now these technology companies have realized the gold mine that they're sitting on, and now presenting it in a way where some are presenting it in a way where they think it's useful to organizers. However, what I'm finding is that it's a lot of data
Right.
about a lot of things, and
Correct.
what we're not getting from the data is the insights.
Correct.
And there are very few companies that are actually taking that additional step to say, okay, here's the data, but this is what the data is telling you. A lot of companies are still just presenting these dashboards of how many people attended, how many people didn't attend, what's the engagement, but nobody ever tells you what that means. So it's
Right.
incumbent on the organizer to have to figure that out. And that's not an easy job, right? Especially when you've got so many disparate systems that aren't talking to each other. And you've got to, you almost have to be a data scientist. And
Correct.
event organizers, I have yet to meet an event organizer that says, I don't have anything to do. Let me sit there and work on data. No
Oh,
one has time for it, right?
right.
There's no time. If anything, I'm behind. I'm 30 days behind. I've got a laundry list of things to do. The last thing I'm going to do is think about my data.
Correct.
So, how do we make it easy for them? That is, I think, the challenge that technology companies should take on, and there are some really good companies that are taking it on and providing it.
But do you think we know that when there is a privacy because uh, I believe many of the organizers, okay, uh, relatively small or the mid-sized organizers, okay, they are yet to in a position to adapt the all the aspects of technology, right? Comparatively, the big players, those are there in the industry. But do you think that, suddenly when something new comes up, like, there is AI, there are different, different aspects of data that are coming into. Do you think that, the event organizers, as you say that, you haven't made the organizer who see, let me analyze and understand the data. But do you really think that it is a problem or kind of habit with majority of the event organizers per se of the size of their business?
I think regardless of the size of your business, time is the luxury, right? It's
Right,
not that we aren't skilled to do it. It's not that we can't do it. It's, do we have time to do it? And how easy is it for us to do it? Do I want to spend 2 hours out of my day learning a new technology, trying to figure out what the data says? Or do I need to be tactical and deliver something that will make my event success, right? And I'm not saying that data is valuable and we should be taking
correct,
the time, but the thing is, we don't have it. So, what is it that technology can do to make it easier for us? So, I've been on the tech side. I had my own startup, and
right,
and the one thing we investors always say, "What's the market fit?" Well, the market
right,
fit is, how do you make it easy for them? How do you make it easy for organizers? Otherwise, it's not. You can't ask them to invest time that they don't have to learn a new tool but on the flip side, we as event organizers can't afford not to stick and not
correct,
to stay with technology, right? And get ahead of it, because it will leave us behind. They
right,
say AI is going to take our jobs. I don't think it
right,
will take our jobs, but if we don't know how to use AI,
correct.
we're not going to have a job.
Yeah, even when I had my initial discussion with Mike, okay, Mike Alton, so he said the same thing that say if you don't stay with the AI, you are not there going to be in the market for a long time,
Yeah.
right?
You have to
Right,
embrace it. I think every profession has to embrace it to some extent. And whether that's learning the tool that they have, I'm not saying that you have to go and learn how to code. I'm not even saying you
correct,
have to learn and go how to learn prompts, prompt
correct,
engineering, right?
right,
But I
right.
am saying that these AI tools are going to be incorporated into so many technology platforms that we're going to use. And either you use it or you get behind.
But when you see for an event organizer perspective, there are a lot of aspects, okay, that he has to take care of. Okay. So how do you he should be able to identify the areas where I think that the technology can play the crucial role for him. See, because there are certain factors like maybe he doesn't have the right understanding of the tools, or he doesn't have that kind of a budget, or maybe he doesn't have that much of a time, okay, or he doesn't have that many of resources, okay. So according to you, what are those key areas that any organizer, okay, irrespective of the size, should invest in technology with reference to data?
So I would simply, depending on what type of organizer I was, regardless, I would sit
Yeah,
down and figure out what's important for me. What am I wasting time on? What is it that I need the most help with? Like taking a look
right,
at, actually sitting down and evaluating how can technology help me and where is it going to give me the biggest bang, whether it's saving time, making new deals, or saving time for my clients, whatever it is, like going through that exercise. And someone recently told me they used ChatGPT to come up with
right.
they said,
Yeah,
create a lesson plan for me every day
okay,
to learn a little bit about whatever topic. And I was like, isn't that genius? So why not go into ChatGPT or whatever AI tool, say,
right,
here are my priorities. What is the best way to create a learning plan or adoption plan
right,
in the next 30 days that, takes 20 minutes out of my day to learn this? And let ChatGPT tell you, give you a guide how to get there, right? Whether it's onboarding new
right,
technology or whatever. But what ChatGPT can't tell you is that exercise of going through what's important to you. You have to
right.
tell AI what's your priorities. What are you going to get the most gain out of it?
Okay, but do you think that uh, that all the event organizers are they matured enough to to understand? Okay, see, because see, when there is a lot of data, when there are a lot of tools, when there is a lot of technology, okay, it is very but obvious for any individual or any business to get confused. Okay, and they may fail, into the trap, having everything rather than choosing something or choosing very very niche thing that is very specific to their business. So do you think that uh, majority of the organizers have that kind of a maturity to choose the right tools at the right time? Okay, and whether do you think it's very event specific? So because you have organizers who have a continuous list of events, annual events throughout the year. Okay. And you have certain organizers who only have a very specific event in a year, which is a very big bash kind of a thing. Okay. So do you think that, there is a kind of a, all of them are mature enough to get that right thing for them?
So I think there's two types of organizers.
Okay.
There is one who's the task taker. They're just
Okay.
interested in doing what they're asked to do, right? And
Okay.
that's their role. And that's fine. If that's what you want out of a job and a career, that's fine. If you just want to be told what to do and do it. I kind of call those, that's one career path. But if
Correct.
you want to be an event strategist, if you want to make your event successful, then you're going to have that entrepreneurial spirit within yourself to make not only your event better, but yourself better. Because once you develop those skills of how to use
Right.
technology, you become a better, like a stronger strategist. And that makes your events better,
Right.
whether it's for your organization or for your clients or whatever. But I genuinely think but I think that division lies in the world in general. There's those that just want to be told what to do, and those which I think are most event organizers, they want to succeed.
Right.
And this is what they're gonna need to do it.
Correct. So, I know, I'll give you my, personal examples. When I was an event organizer, okay, I was approached by an organization uh, who came with a, solution, that could have allowed me to take, in-event feedback of the speakers or of the content or the oral sessions that are going throughout the event. Okay. So it was kind of a real-time feedback for an event organizer like me. Okay. Uh, but do you think that, currently, when we say there are a lot of tech platforms, okay, who give you everything, almost everything, kind of, when it comes to event engagement, event experience, the kind of a content, okay. So do you think that in such a kind of a broader perspective, you know, the kind of a event experience data or a kind of a event engagement data, or let's say matter event reviews data. Okay, event reviews. Okay, I'm a big fan of event reviews. So do you think that when these kind of data uh, is generated, or is when event organizer sits and see there is a data, but do you think that there they would be able to set a pattern between that data to to produce an event which can be called as a perfect event? And do you think that there is a concept of perfect event?
No, events are always evolving. And if you don't
Correct.
evolve, then you're behind.
Correct.
It's a matter of, and it's not only technology, right? Humans evolve. That's just
Correct.
part of our nature, right?
Right.
And as we evolve, and your audience evolves too. So that changes. But in terms of your question about data, are we, yes, there's a lot of data that comes at us. Are we able to analyze that data and then also look at them from disparate systems and try to bring it together? It's hard, right? And
Right.
that's why we need to rely on technology. There's some
Oh,
tools that are out there that can bring it together. Now, I've seen a lot of great platforms. They do exactly that. They give you a lot of different great data points,
right.
but they bring that intersection where the
Right.
data, there's those insights, right? A lot of platforms don't do that, but that's not their job to do that. There
Right.
are other platforms, other tools that can. Or if you have a savvy event organizer that can safely use BI tools or AI, you could do that safely in ChatGPT and have certain prompts to give you that information. It takes a little bit more work. It can be done, and it's not hard. That's the great thing about this no code world, right? Like you can literally dump safely not private data, but safely data into an AI tool and get some of those insights. Now, the catch is that data correct?
Right.
You have to have the foresight to look at the data and look at it and challenge it, right? Not take it at its face value. I just I ran a model through Chat GPT the other day, and I was like, and
Yeah.
the results came back, and I'm like, oh, that's not right. And it didn't have enough information, whatever the reason was, but you have to do that. You have to check it.
But don't you think that that to get acquainted with this kind of a tools, okay, or to use such tools, so do you think it will make the organizers too much tech dependent, that
Tech
for everything?
dependent.
Yeah.
Now, I think the tech is a tool, right? The tool still is heavily dependent on the organizer and the organizer's gut. I often talk about how you should use data, not your gut, but I also think you should use not just the data, use your gut to
Right.
analyze, to put the inputs in, and to understand what it says. Otherwise, yeah, I could you be too tech dependent? Yes, if you don't check and validate and challenge the data and results, yeah, that can be too dependent.
Okay, so now see, you have been working in this industry for last 30 years. Now. You have seen, you know, the height of the in-person events, right? So now we are also seeing the virtual, the hybrid ones. So how do you see, the trains, that have been, carried out throughout these years, per se with the event data? I will not say, the event organization, but per se the event data. So do you see any, a connected pattern between these things, that, as we are walking through to the heavy reliance on in-person events, and then the hybrid, then the virtual. Do you see any pattern, or, how do you see these trends now?
I
And
have. I
what's the next?
remember, yeah, when I first got into the industry, I remember the data was locked behind the door, behind the wizard. The wizard was in control of it. It was a separate department. If you
Right,
wanted access to the data, you had to go to this, data specialist,
right.
request the data, maybe get it 30 days later. Like that was a whole thing. That was 30 in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
back, that was when it was a different game. But now, through the evolution of technology, the data is actually now presented to us where we have it in our own hands as organizers.
Right.
That's been the evolution of being able to actually empower us to have control over that. I no longer have to wait 30 days from
Correct.
the wizard to tell me, here's the data, right? I used to
But
always
but
wonder, I'm like, why is
but,
it
but do
taking
you
30 days to give me a list?
but do you think that, see, see, I'm a marketer also, I'm an organizer also, okay, and I'm a sponsor also, okay. And as a sponsor, what I always like to see is that the data, you know, the number of attendees, the number of, sessions, and the kind of a profile that coming into the events. Okay, but do you think that, uh, is there any, you know, uh, uh, data, touch points? Okay, are there any data touch points? Those are very specific to any particular industries or any particular events. So let's say, for example, you have manufacturing events, you have healthcare events, you have marketing events, you have a place like Forrester, you have a place like Gartner. Okay, so do you think that, as the industry changes, the data point changes, or they remain same across the industries, irrespective of whichever industry it can be?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, especially on the sponsor end, we get, 10,000 people are coming to the
Yes.
trade show. But as a sponsor, I don't care. I don't
Right.
care that there's 10,000 people. I care about who my ICP, how many of
Right.
them are going to be there and how do I access them and what is their intent?
Correct.
I find it very intriguing that events is the number one marketing tool to close business, right?
Right.
To nurture
Definitely.
business. We all know that the stats are out there, but I find interesting that we don't dive deeper into the data. There's some events that are great that capture intent data. And what I mean by intent data is like, what is the attendee interested in buying? At what point are they going to buy? What is their role? Because all of that piece of information, their intent of what they want to buy, when they want to buy, who they are, that is a gold mine for
Correct.
sponsors, right? That's what they want to know. They don't care about, like job title's great, but what does it tell you?
Right.
What state they're from? Okay, maybe it tells you region. It still doesn't give you the intent data.
Right.
Like I can't wait for the day that events turn their data into this machine like Bombara or Sixth Sense or like it's we already are there.
Right.
Why hasn't why aren't we taking that business model and saying that's what we provide to sponsors? That's the hidden secret right there.
Okay, so when we say that, do you think, see now, uh, we can look at the data both from the pre-event perspective and post-event perspective. Okay, there is a data that is collected at the pre-event level, and there is a data that is collected at the post-event level, and there is data which is collected during the event or in-event level. Okay, so according to you, in these three touch points, which is very important and crucial. Let's say, for example, if I have a previous event where I have all this data available, pre, post, in event, okay, and I'm planning to have organize my next event. So, to which data I should be focusing more to plan my next event, per se from the marketing side, per se from the engagement side, any
All of
specific,
it.
all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
But no, I think Uh, but realistically, I think it's a matter of reverse engineering. Figure
Okay.
out what's most important. What is it that you want to change? What is it, or what are your goals? And figuring out from then, okay, let's say your goal is you're an association and your goal is to increase membership by
Right.
20%. okay, let's reverse engineer. How many people is that? What kind of data will tell me that information? And work your way backwards so that you can see, see if you're pulling that first of all, if you're even collecting that kind of information, and then figuring out what you need to do to create this kind of automation of data, right? Like once you figure out what you need and you're collecting it, how do you need it presented? But it's all the way I look at it is reverse engineering. And that works for any goal, right? Like and every organization is different. Association may care about members, a company may care about new business. Healthcare may be about, did they get their messaging across about this new drug that's coming across? Whatever, but to me, that's the key.
Okay. But as we focus more on the data side, okay, as we focus more on the experience and engagement side, uh, do you think that it is very valid for an organizer, okay, to have, okay, a kind of engine, okay, I would say a content engine, okay. So because see, when it comes to data, even data, I believe that if you have the right content or right content engine that produces your content, or that produces your all the things that are required to have a great event experience, okay. But sometimes what happens that despite having a good content, okay, uh, event may fail. And there have been examples that despite having a good content, good event experience, good event engagement, okay, there hasn't been a much success for that particular event, okay. So so in that particular, because see, I am talking it from my personal example. I had a very good event content, I had a very good event, uh, you know topics that were discussed, okay. But when it comes from a monetary perspective, okay, sometimes events doesn't work, okay. So for an organizer like me, if I have to again go back to the events, okay, and if I have that kind of a prejudice in mind that despite having a good content, my event did not work properly, okay. So in that scenario, what kind of data should I look at, okay? See, because the key component of my event was a big failure, that is the event content. So in that scenario, which data should I go and recheck again, and to see that is this is the thing, or which this is the touch point, that I should be again going and start with the process again.
Yeah. I mean, again, for me, it's like reverse engineering again. It's like, how do we define success? How do we
Mm.
define failure? And then figuring out, again, what are those data points that will help me determine those? And then that will then tell you what you need to take a look at and start finding. You may think it's a failure because you were looking at your goal in a different way, but your real
Right,
goal, it could totally shift things. I've
right.
had organizations, I've had clients who have done events where they've lost money in the production.
Okay,
Their number of ticket sales was less than their operational budget, right? The amount
right.
they paid for food and beverage, venue, and all of that, and AV. But for them, that didn't matter. For them, it was much more about let's say it's an association, about the number of members that were engaged and renewed their membership, or perhaps in a business, a corporation that was doing an event, and for them it was about keeping their customers engaged and giving them the education. That lifetime value of a client could be much greater than the loss, the net zero, the net expenses, right? Yeah. So I think it's really about being very clear what your goals, what looks like success and what looks like failure.
Okay. So do you think that moving ahead is going to be more data driven,
Oh yeah,
or
for
but
sure.
do you think that uh, the organizers have that kind of a budget or a mentality or maturity or a time to focus completely on that data driven
Oh,
thing?
Absolutely, because I think the tools that are the things that I'm seeing in the marketplace being developed,
Right,
some are available, some still, futuristic, and I see the plans for it. It's going to be embedded in these tech tools. Like, gone are the days where you have 150 sessions listed on, on an Excel sheet or, on a web page, right? I'm
right,
going to log in. There's already technology out there. I'm going to log in. It's going to know my profile. It's like the Amazon effect, right?
right,
When you go to
right,
Amazon to buy, Amazon already knows what I want to buy. It tells me that, right?
right.
Same thing with conference sessions. I'm going to log in. It's going to recognize me and say, hey, these are the sessions you should go to. That technology already exists. So it's coming. Affordability, that's a different question, but I do think as time has progressed from the the pandemic, I have seen technology prices come down, and a lot of that is because the technology companies that are here to stay, that have built these platforms, they've already, the core of the programs, the technology is built. They've already spent that money. And now it's a matter of the cost of that technology is coming down because now the technology is kind of writing itself.
Yeah, yeah,
But I don't know that it'll be, I mean, of course, the more advanced it is, the more expensive it may be, but I don't know that it will be so cost prohibitive. I think as an organization, you got to sit down and think, right? Like, if I don't do this, what's that cost to me?
right. But do you think that when we say of the data, it is only revolving around the event tech platforms, or it is beyond that?
Oh, it's beyond my goal. And, before I retire, I am hoping to see
Yeah,
these data silos, department silos be destroyed, right? So
right,
I do a lot of workshops where I go into organizations and I don't talk to just the event department. I have them
right,
bring everybody in and we talk about how event data impacts every department in the organization. And they all do, they all like, yeah, I have a stake in this. But
right,
what is important is that someone at that organization at the top has to be able to deliver that message that events is not just an event department issue. It is an organization, not even an issue, it's an organization mission, right? Because that data, that progress, that brand, whatever it is, ultimately impacts the organization, and then it involves everybody.
okay. So now, as we move ahead into the events, right? How do you see that the survival? Okay, so, or from the competitive perspective, okay, uh, because the big players always have access to much larger piece of data comparatively. They have resources, okay, and as we are moving towards the too much tech savvy kind of a thing, do you think that small players, especially the small players who have a kind of one event, two events in a year, uh, how they can be sustained and what they should do to sustain in this tech race? Rather, I would say that because it's moving too fast, because tech is moving too fast. Every day something other is coming up. So what they should focus on now?
Yeah, I'm a big believer. I love technology. I love the data piece of it, but it also can be overwhelming, right? So I'm a
Right,
big believer in that we keep it simple. And again,
right,
it goes back to identifying what's important to your organization, right? Like, what is that goal? What is that mission? And working it back. Some organizations may have 5 goals. Some may have, if you're just small staff and you can't possibly, think of more, pick one thing. Just pick one thing that's going to make the biggest impact, or is the easiest to implement. I would actually go with the easiest. That way adoption is a lot easier. But
right,
maybe it's just looking at attendance. I know a lot of organizations who can't tell you what the year over year growth is, right?
right,
Like,
right.
start there. Know what your attendance was last year, know what your attendance this year, see your growth. Hopefully it's a growth, but know that information. That, I mean, it can be as simple as that.
But do you think that we know that uh, the tech adoption is moving fast within the organizers? Do you think there is as you must be talking to a lot of event organizers? Okay, so do you think that they are ready to do that tech adoption to just to get that data, or it's too slow, or you say it's at the medium level that people the organizers are still trying to get to that space?
I think I think there's more organizers than we know that are not only more than qualified, but eager to do this, right? But they almost need permission. They need the organization to say, I'm not going to come up with a new event. Instead, I'm going to invest in making sure we have the data to create a new event, right?
Right.
Like I know a lot of event organizers that are saying, if my CEO comes to me with another dream event, I will scream. I actually interviewed somebody not too long, a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
for a panel discussion, and he talked about
Okay.
how every day his leadership would come, give me a report, give me a report. And he said, he stopped them. He goes, no. He goes, tell me why. And then he would determine, he goes, no. He would either say, yes, that's a good reason, or no. Like, how are you going to
Yes.
use it? Don't ask me for a report for the sake of reports. And I think that is a great way to manage that. But I
Right.
think it's definitely, I think there's more of us out there than we know.
But see now, uh, I have a data. Okay, I have a lot of data. So should I focus it more from the event marketing perspective? Should I focus more from the event engagement perspective? Or should I focus more it from the organization perspective or the experience perspective? Okay. Do you think that, the organizers need to bifurcate that data that they have based on this kind of, bucketing, that yes, this is data that I would like to use for event marketing, this is data that I would like to increase the event engagement, or this is the data which I can use to elevate the event experience, or this is data which I can use to to make the overall event a great success? Do you think that kind of a bucketing will make things easier for them rather than getting each every piece of data and use it everywhere?
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to the goals, right?
Yeah.
Figure out what your goal is, or what you're trying to accomplish, or what defines success,
Right.
and then work backwards and say, what data do I need for that? I bet 100% of the time, you're not going to need everything that you have. It's
Right.
going to define, it's going to give you the kind of that tunnel vision of saying, okay, this is your path to the
Right.
data that you need. Yeah. Because you don't need all the data. Is it handy? Is it going to be helpful? I'm a data hoarder, so that I will collect data because I don't know when I'm going to use it, for what purpose. But I think but when I go to do it,
Okay,
insights, I'm
so
all in mind.
okay, so now see, you are more data driven. Okay, so so I would like to understand one example where you must have had a very absurd conversation with an event organizer regarding that event data. Have you had that kind of experience? Because you must be meeting a lot of people, you must be having a lot of conversation across the boards, across the sizes of the events. So what's your experience there? And I would like to have one example that you don't have to take the names or the organizer, but any absurd experience that or any kind of a response that you must have thought, yeah, this is really uh, very kind of a absurd kind of a thing you must have experienced.
With
Uh,
an event organizer asking what again?
so any see, let's say for example you are asking some questions to event organizers, okay, and they must have come up with some weird ideas because not everyone is same. Okay, not everyone has that kind of so have you ever experienced that kind of a thing with or kind of a any experience that you have uh, you know
Oh, all the time. So I teach a class for PCMA about event measurement and
right.
analytics. and the students in the class are asked to bring in a real life working scenario that they're
Right.
doing something at work. If
Right.
not, they make one up. And they will bring in ideas. They were like, we want to do this event. And we literally ask them questions like, why? The homework assignments they have takes them on this journey of why? I mean, it's all about data points. So you get them to the point of saying, well, either they get to the point at the end where they're like, okay, that maybe wasn't a good idea, or okay, maybe there is something here. I've answered these why it's important to my organization, or why we want to do this. And yeah, you're right. Not every event is a good idea. But I think we all have to, with all of our ideas, is to ask those questions and challenge it. And like I just mentioned with the leadership too, yeah, I want to do this great event. Well, why? Understand why and how it meets the organizational goals. To me, that's what it all comes down to, is how does an event impact the organization?
Okay, and how do you see the role of event reviews in the whole, aspect of data? The information that is collected through event reviews. Okay, okay. How do you see them? Okay, see, because uh, some organizers have their own mechanism to do that. Some may approach a third party to do that. Okay, so how do you think that, considering that, if there is a 10,000-person event, or there's a huge event, do you think in that scenario event reviews do really matter, or
I
if they
am
are
a big
more per se to the size of the event?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of qualitative data when it comes to
Right.
reviews. I don't get me wrong, surveys are an easy way to get, kind of a rating, your NPS score,
Right.
I think is fine. But I think the qualitative is where you get the guts of it. And I know that seems daunting to get. You have 10,000 attendees, and let's say even 10% come back with responses. How do you read
Right.
them all?
Right.
And that's where technology comes back to you. There are a lot of, especially event specific tools that will analyze the qualitative data. But I think it's also very important to take a look at, like, if you are a 10,000 person event and you only get 5 responses, that's not data.
Right.
There has to be a certain minimum to make it real. I once had on the event tech side, we were doing hybrid events and we were supporting
Okay.
an event on site. And we had one client said, oh my God, the technology's not working, the passwords aren't working. And I was like, looking at my own dashboard going, you have 5,000 people logged into this platform. I don't see anyone, I don't see any issues. And I said, well, tell me about who's complaining. I said, how many people complain?
Yeah.
Just one. I said,
Oh.
oh, okay. I said, well, is that one person a VIP who's very loud? She goes, yes. I said, tell you what, we don't have a technology issue, but we will help you, right? But
Right.
that's a great example of how your sample set is not reflective of the voice, right? So you have to be very careful of that. But big believer in when you can do qualitative collection.
Okay. So is there any, set size of the sample to understand the data,
That's a
or
loaded
to read the
question.
data? Is there any set, sample size? Because uh, it may differ event to event. It may differ, you know, uh, industry to industry, or it may differ kind of, the mechanism that the organizers have. But do you think that there is a set size sample that, the event organizer should look at with respect to the overall their event attendees, or the kind of speakers that they have? Okay, so apart from the sampling, I would like to hear your answer on that as well. But how do you see the role of speakers that, see, because I believe that, when it comes to events, they are also one of the great factors that influence the success of the events. Okay, but I have not seen that, where the speakers data has been analyzed. Okay, the kind of speakers, the background of the speakers, the number of speakers, the content of the speakers. Okay, so do you think that will also contribute to
Oh,
the?
absolutely. And especially I work a lot with associations, and
Right.
associations I find to do a really good job of getting speaker ratings. I mean, part of it is the credentialing that they have to go
Right.
to issue out credits, right? But I see them do a lot of great work in terms of asking attendees, how would you rate this speaker? What, on how would you rate the materials? Was it effective? I think those questions, some organizations are really solid in that. And I also have seen technology really help, like in that session management, speaker management piece too. Of there's some great technology out there that, like Session Board, who they say they have like a speaker CRM, which basically has created this database of all your speakers, and all you can collect all their ratings, and you can run a query or a report that says, give me my top 10 speakers and what did, based on these criteria, or even give me my
Yeah.
bottom 10 speakers, right? And
Right.
why, and then also being cognizant of, maybe that speaker only, maybe it was a different factor that speaker didn't get as many reviews, but the data is there, right? I think we are
Right.
collecting more. To your point earlier, data's everywhere, right? And it
Right.
can be in every part of the journey.
And coming back to that sampling, do you think that there is the perfect or ideal size of the sampling, or there is no certain thing like that?
I think everyone has kind of their own formula as to what is appropriate. I don't know that there is a magic number that says, okay, it's got to be 20%. I do think it needs to be reflective of, like, if you're looking at how did exhibitors rate your trade show, then you're looking at exhibitor data. You're not looking at other people rating that experience. I think that more so. I mean, yeah, you want a minimum, but I think you'll know when you don't have enough.
Right. Right. So, but uh, see, when it comes to data, that uh, as we are moving ahead, okay, do you think that there are certain challenges that the organizer should fix first to deal with that tech, tech driven data that they are going to have? Okay. Are there any challenges in the current system that you think that that may not allow or enable organizers to perfectly read, analyze, or understand that data that they have, or it is more the organizer specific, or there are
You
certain
know,
common challenges that they
yeah, and I think it all comes down to having a data strategy, right? It's data governance.
have?
And I know that sounds like a lot and it's kind of a scary term, right? But it goes back again, knowing what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, and then structuring that data that way. I have almost 100% of the time when I've gone through the exercise with an organization to say, what are your goals? What do you need to capture to measure that goal? Almost 100% of time, they don't know. They haven't gone through that practice. They haven't, and then
Right,
what they find out is, oh, we aren't collecting that information, and that would be
right,
really valuable. Well, great, so you may not have historical information for it, but you know what you did is you identified a gap, and you're going to start doing it now so that you do
right,
have it for next time. You're ready. Like, I
correct,
don't think data analysis is just for post event. Like
right,
that, post event is too late.
correct.
It is
Yes,
a
definitely.
starting point. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But see now, what advice you would like to give to the organizers who have too much of a data, okay, and to the organizers who doesn't have anything, or rather very a small amount of data. So, what advice that you would like to give to them, saying that that the organizers with a bunch of data should do this, or the organizers with a lot of data, bulk of data should do this.
Yeah. My advice is, one, breathe. Just take a deep breath. Two, start with the goals. I think that's where it all starts from. And then create that plan. If you create a data strategy, this data plan, it will make things so much easier down the road. And it makes sense too.
Right.
And also within your own capacity, right? Like if you
Correct.
start going and the plan is too unwieldy, then you know you've gone too far. It's like reel it back, do what you can with it. And again, big fan of asking ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or whatever tool that you want to use and asking them for help in this guidance, right? Like, I want to create a data strategy, guide me, right? And let it ask you questions. I mean, since I work from home, I think I talk to AI more than I talk to other people, but it's, it's amazing what things can be brought up, things I haven't thought about.
But do you think that, see, now, sometimes, the organizers may take a doubt that, I don't have that much of time to have that data strategy. Okay. Or I don't have those perfect resources who can help me with the data strategy. Okay. So in that case, how
Yeah.
would you would like
If
to?
you don't have if you don't have time to make your event better, then maybe you should question what you want to do with your event.
Right.
If you're not striving to make it better, what's your goal? Maybe you are the one that is just a task taker, and that's fine. But if you want your event to succeed, someone in the organization has to take on that role.
But do you think that event organizers have that kind of acceptance level to accept the fact that,
I like to do a time cost analysis. If
okay.
if you can make my life easier, then I'm all for it, right? Like not even my only in my event organizing world, like in mom life and family life, whatever.
Yeah.
If you can save me time,
Yes.
then I'm all on board, right? And I think that's the value proposition technology companies fail to tell organizers a lot is that we say technology comes say we're going to make your life easier,
Right.
but how? I'm saving you time. I'm making your event better. And if those align with your goals, yeah,
So
I
now,
think you have to think of it that way.
but see, we spoke about too much of, we spoke too much about technology. Okay. But how do you see that human side of the human side in collecting?
Yeah, no, it's all human. Without our interactions, without our input, there would be no technology. There'd be no data, right? It is just a way to measure the humanity of it all, right? When I was designing on the tech side, I had my own tech company. It was very important that we design the product with humans in mind because it was human organizers that were using it. It was
Right.
the human organizers who were going to have the user interface. So it's very much a human aspect. There's without the humans, there wouldn't be tech, there wouldn't be data. So it's very much human centric.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And before I can wrap this up, uh, 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 a small piece of advice, okay, to all the organizers, okay, including me, okay, including me, okay. So uh, how they should you know look at the data and how much time they should spend on the data to have the proper event success. Okay. Should they be investing 50% of their time in data? Should they be investing 25% of their time in data? Or should they be focusing 75% time on data and remaining 25% on the other aspect? So how much time they should, invest and how much value weightage? See, let's say, for example, if we say that, overall event is 100%, so how much value you will give or weightage you will give to the data side of the event?
Well, again, I think I sound like a broken record. It goes back to the goals. How important is it? If your only goal is to make sure that you put 100 butts in seats
Right.
and you can easily measure that, great, you're done. That doesn't take much time, right?
But
That
do
doesn't
you
take
think
much.
that we know that every organizer has that kind of understanding?
Oh,
Do you think?
yeah. I think if you're in the
Okay.
events business, you have a goal,
Okay.
and whether you put it in those words or not,
And to the organizer who is starting with the first event. So what
that first,
advice?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, the first question that you should be asking, anybody should be asking is, I have an event. What am I trying to accomplish with this event? Right? What
Okay.
is, again, it goes back to
See,
goals. It's
again, it
like,
is coming back to the Googles,
it's goals.
right?
It's like my favorite word. But truly, I mean, if, I remember being an intern and, my mentors would say, okay, we're going to do this event. And I would ask, well, why? What's it mean to, it was a PR agency I worked for. And they said, well, we did this event so the company can do X, Y, and Z. I'm like,
Right.
great. Like asking those questions and understanding I think is critical. That's kind of gives you justification for your job too. So, I think
Yeah.
that's
Why
a
are you
little,
doing it? Right? Why are you doing it? Okay.
yeah.
So, Vinu, it was a great conversation. Very honest. Okay. And thank you so much for your time. Okay. And before I can, we can really wrap it up. Okay. I wanted to know more about you because in the beginning, you asked about me, but, now it's my time. So I wanted to understand more about you as
Sure. Well, I've been in this industry for 30 years and have seen it all. I've
well.
been an event organizer at small nonprofits to working with agencies to owning my own agency, and starting my own tech firm. And I recently exited, and
Oh,
I really am passionate about uplifting organizers and having them embrace technology and giving them the power, right? We're really a powerful group of people in the economy. I don't think we all
definitely.
realize, right?
Definitely.
And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for especially the younger generations that are coming up. They have so much opportunity, and that
Right.
is something that I've been fortunate enough to have great mentors and great teachers, and if I can just impart a little bit of that back, that would just be a blessing.
Yeah, no, it was nice talking to you, and once again, thank you. Thank you. Thanks a
Well,
lot.
thank you so much for having me.
No, no, it's my pleasure completely. It's my pleasure completely, and it's an honor to have you on my show. And I'll once again come back to you. Okay, to more understand more about the goals.
Always, always. It's always about the goals.
Yes, it's always there. So I will come back to you again. Okay, and I would definitely like to talk to you on that part as well because I think that to be very honest, that many of the organizers, okay, are still trying to figure out, okay, what the goal is.
Yeah. Oh, always. What the goal is, what the technology is, but you know
Yeah,
what? The sky is open for
is the
them.
limit.
It's really
Yeah,
unlimited.
yeah, and that's why events are very fascinating.
Yeah,
They're very fascinating. They are something out of this universe. To be very honest. Okay,
it is. It is. And
you
that's why
don't
they're
have that kind
successful.
of.
That's why they're the number one driver.
Yeah, yeah, especially, yeah, there is no other mechanism or engine, that can drive the economy so fast and they can generate business like this. So,
No, for sure.
Vinny, thanks a lot.
Thank
And
you.
thank you. Thank you. Thanks a
We'll be
lot.
in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bye.
Bye.